This is Nick.
This is Jack.
It's Thursday, the new Friday, May 15th. And today's pod is the best one yet. And this is a T-Boy.
The top 3 pop business news stories you need to know today.
Yetis, we got a little surprise for you at the end of the show. Someone gonna call in, Jack?
We're going to get our first ever live call-in.
Oh,
pretty exciting.
1-800-T-Boy-Pod. But Jack, 3 stories for today's T-Boy. Fantastic show. What do we got on the pod?
For our first story, Airbnb has finally become an everything app.
Because you can now Airbnb not just a house, you can Airbnb your hairstylist, a HIIT workout, or even a hibachi chef.
For our second story, Boeing just received its biggest order ever. Qatar Airways is buying 210 Boeing jets.
One way to think about the current Middle East deal-a-palooza, this is like the NBA draft.
And our third and final story is eToro.
eToro.
It's the first big IPO of the year, and the stock surged 40% yesterday.
Because Kim Kardashian could be a stock trading influencer.
But Yetis, before we hit that wonderful mix of stories.
Whoa, what a kickoff to the show. Love the mix today, Jack.
When it comes to pets, puppies get all the attention in this economy.
Puppy, P-U-P-P-Y. People ultimately prioritize puppies.
Yeah, they do. But there's one pandemic pet whose sales are still surging.
Yeah, here's a hint. It's green, it's cold, and it will take care of the fruit flies in your kitchen.
Lizards.
Yeah, lizards.
But Yetis, during the pandemic, Americans began to appreciate the exotic power of these little dinosaurs.
And since COVID, sales have accelerated for reptiles like a gecko's tongue.
Why? Basically TikTok and Instagram. Geckos owned the algorithm for some reason.
The result today, 4 million American households own a reptile or an amphibian. That is an all-time high.
That's more than 1 out of every 100 U.S. households has a reptile inside.
According to Bloomberg, Yetis, food and supplies only for reptiles and amphibians are up 60% since 2019.
That's faster growth than for cats. And your cat hates you.
But what's the wildest part about this trend, Jack?
The biggest reptile trend is luxury reptiles.
That's right. One man in Colorado breeds geckos for special looking features like stripes and bright colors.
People are paying $50,000 for a designer gecko from this guy.
That toad cost more than a Birkin bag.
So Yetis, remember this takeaway.
Jack, what's our takeaway about reptiles?
Nothing scales like scales.
Jack, let's hit our 3 stories.
15 years before this song, 2 boys from the Northeast met in the dorm. They had an idea that caused a cultural storm. It's the best one yet, but the best is the norm. Jack, Nick, that's it. I don't even think they need to practice. 50%, that's a fat tip. T-Boy City on your at list. If you know, you know, cause we ready to go. We can't wait no more, so just start the show. Start the show.
For our first story, Airbnb launched a complete app redesign. Get ready for massages, hairstylists, and hibachi chefs.
But here's the big question. Is Airbnb becoming the everything app, or is it having a midlife crisis?
Yetis, Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb, he got more press on Tuesday than any non-scandal CEO in history.
He did a product unveil in Los Angeles. The Wall Street Journal magazine did an article on him. Wired magazine did a deep dive on him. And he went to CNBC for a live interview.
One sec, Jack. I think Brian Chesky just became the new permanent co-host of The View with Whoopi Goldberg.
And why is he so active this week? Well, Airbnb is tripling its ambitions. So the CEO is out there telling everybody about it.
Here's the news, Yetis. From booking a place to stay, Airbnb is now a platform to book everything.
And the stock is up 10% this week on that ambitious news.
Now, here's what Jack and I found fascinating about this story. The new challenge facing Airbnb is actually the old challenge facing Airbnb.
Hotels.
Yeah, it's hotels.
Because in this economy, hotels have been on the upswing.
In fact, in the latest earnings report from Airbnb, we noticed they mentioned hotels a record 35 times.
For every 1 booking of an Airbnb, 9 hotels get booked.
And why is there all this new tension with hotels, Jack?
With high travel prices, travelers want to feel pampered while they're on their vacation. They want the services that a hotel offers.
So Airbnb's goal with this total app makeover? Neutralize hotels' advantage by pampering you with services.
Starting right now in 260 different cities, you can book from 10 different categories of services that are commonly only offered by hotels.
Yeah, like we're talking room service, massage, spa treatments, private workouts. They come to your Airbnb or you go to their studio. You can book Pilates now through Airbnb.
You could have a hibachi chef set up his cooking station in your Airbnb's backyard and flip shrimp to all your guests right into their mouths.
But we should point out, Yetis, to be a Benihana chef on Airbnb, you actually have to apply now to be one of their service providers.
Airbnb is going to vet all these service providers to make sure they're legit.
And here's what we think is the interesting key to this whole situation.
You don't have to be traveling to book these services on Airbnb. You could book that Benihana chef to come to your own apartment to cook while you're not traveling.
So what we are saying here, Jack, if you add all this up, is that by offering these services, Airbnb is no longer just a travel app, right?
They're kind of an app for everything.
So Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over at Airbnb?
Our 2021 business wish is finally coming true.
Now, Yetis, you've been with us for a while. So you know, every new year we do a predictions pod where we wish for 3 big business stories to happen.
On January 4th, 2021, we wished that Airbnb would expand from houses to everything.
Well, Brian Chesky literally just said that you can now Airbnb every service, whether you're traveling or not. They're not a travel company.
We're surprised it took them so long to expand beyond travel and apply the Airbnb app to other stuff.
I mean, Jack, now they are in a race with Uber to be the one everything app. And like, how many everything apps are you really going to have on your phone?
It's Airbnb versus Uber, and their headquarters are right next to each other in San Francisco.
So here's the value unlock. Airbnb built the tech to legally and safely let someone use your home.
Now they're letting someone legally and safely use your services.
Officially, Airbnb added services to compete with hotels.
Unofficially, it just became an everything app. Our 2021 wish has come true.
For our second story, Boeing just got its biggest order ever. Qatar Airways is buying $96 billion worth of Boeing's big jets.
But what this Boeing Middle East deal really reminds us of is the NBA draft.
Yetis, earlier this week, we told you about Trump's Middle East Grand Tour.
His goal was to announce $1 trillion worth of deals during this trip.
One day, Wes Anderson is going to turn this whole thing into a movie. Because on Wednesday, President Trump said that Qatar was buying $200 billion worth of Boeing airplanes.
That number wasn't correct, actually. The White House clarified later that Qatar Airways is buying $96 billion for 210 Boeing jets.
And you know what? Boeing's CEO just confirmed it on the ground in the Middle East.
He said that this is the biggest order the U.S. jet maker has ever done.
Which is a massive breath of life into a struggling Boeing brand who is, still trying to move past the whole door flying off the airplane thing.
Side note, Qatar's widely reported plans to gift President Trump a 747 as Air Force One that still has not finalized.
But in the meantime, if it ain't Boeing, Qatar Airways ain't going.
Now, Nick, to describe Boeing's last 2 months as turbulent would be a bit of an understatement. Because Boeing started off as the biggest trade war loser, but is now the biggest trade war winner.
This is one of the wildest stock turnarounds we've ever seen. Yetis, the biggest buyer of Boeing airplanes in the last 20 years. Jack, who was it?
China.
China.
And as the trade war was heating up, China punished Boeing.
Yeah, China actually banned their local national airlines from buying Boeing planes.
But now, as countries are trying to make deals with the president, their top gift is to buy Boeings.
Yeah, it's not watches. It's not a Rolex. It's buying Boeing airplanes.
In consecutive weeks, the United Kingdom and Qatar have announced flashy and political giant orders of Boeing jets.
And you know why? Well, because the biggest way to buy American is literally buying a Boeing.
A Boeing aircraft is the most expensive product the United States sells. If you want to swing the trade deficit one way or the other, buy a Boeing aircraft from America.
Forget Twinkies, Harley-Davidson motorcycles, Ford F-150s. No, the Boeing 747, that is the ultimate made-in-America product.
And Boeing is also highly politically connected. Boeing strategically chose suppliers from all 50 states. It's like a supply spiderweb to make sure that every American has a stake in their success.
The result? Well, Boeing is now shockingly the trade war winner.
To win points with Donald Trump, all you gotta do is order Boeing aircraft.
And now Boeing stock is up 50% in just the past 6 weeks. Boeing got the business class upgrade. So Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over at Boeing?
Saudi Arabia is the #1 pick in the economic draft.
So Yetis, Donald Trump's handshaking with Middle East leaders this week, it is, shocker, controversial.
Saudi Arabia's leader approved the murder of a Washington Post journalist in 2018. Syria's new leader that Trump just met with is a former jihadi.
But nonetheless, all of them are becoming buyers of U.S. products right now and getting U.S. support in return.
One way to think of this, Trump is signing free agents like it was the NBA draft.
Here's the interesting strategy. Russia, and to a lesser extent China, have huge influence on the Middle East.
But these deals move these Middle Eastern free agent countries closer to us and further from Russia.
Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, in particular, they have huge economic power thanks to their oil riches.
So these are economic deals, but they're also geopolitical free agent signings.
And that's why this biggest deal in Boeing history reminds us of the NBA draft. Hey Yetis, if you're a bestie, take a sec and hit that subscribe button.
And like this video while you're at it. If you leave a comment, by the way, we'll read it.
For our third and final story, eToro just IPO'd and the stock popped 40% on social media influencer investing.
But we know the secret way to invest, like the top CEOs.
And we'll tell you in the takeaway. But Yetis, grab your coat, because we've been stuck in a corporate ice age.
Businesses have been frozen as the trade war was hot.
But funny thing, is it just us, or this week, are things warming up a little bit?
Stocks have risen as tariffs have thawed, and the IPO market suddenly got super hot.
Get this, Hinge Health is going public, Chime just filed for an IPO, and StubHub, ooh, they could soon be publicly traded.
eToro already hit the stock market. The Israel-based stock trading app IPO'd on Wednesday, and the stock jumped 40% on the first day.
That's the news. eToro is now public. Basically, this is like a Robinhood company plus a social media feed.
Yep, they offer stocks, crypto options, and like buttons because there's social media posts in there.
More on that in a minute. In the meantime, the stock began trading yesterday and hit a $5 billion valuation. That's about one lift.
And it makes sense because they have 1/10 the number of users as Robinhood, and their valuation is 1/10 as big as Robinhood.
Just like Robinhood, they are riding the retail investor renaissance going on right now.
Now, Yetis, even though eToro was actually founded 8 years before Robinhood, it kind of looks like a foreign Robinhood knockoff, right, Nick?
Yeah, it's almost like if Robinhood is a pair of Nike sneakers, then eToro is a pair of Dockers khakis made in Europe. I'm just working with what I can on the top of my head.
But there's one feature that eToro has that's wildly different than Robinhood. They have social media and they have influencers in the app.
Get this, eToro has this wild feature called their Popular Investor Program that they mentioned 35 times in their IPO paperwork.
This program lets regular retail investors copy the trades of their financial influencers.
Basically, you follow Selena Gomez on Instagram for her makeup recommendations, so you could follow an eToro influencer in their app for stock recommendations.
And automatically buy and sell when that influencer buys and sells.
And from our research, it looks like 55% of eToro users are using these social media stock trading features.
Some of them to copy the trades of an influencer.
And what's the wildest part about this, Jack?
The influencers whose trades get copied by customers on the platform earn a percentage of funds from those who are copying him. It's like a commission.
So like if Jack and I could share our portfolios on eToro, we would get paid if you bought stock like Peloton like we did, even though you'll lose money on it.
Because you copied our Peloton trade.
Now, the interesting opportunity here Jack and I mentioned is that these aren't famous investors who are the stock trading influencers.
We looked at the top followed influencer on the eToro app. We'd never heard of him, but they do have 1.5 million followers on the app.
So what Jack and I think the real opportunity here is like, what if Kim Kardashian shared her portfolio on eToro?
You could get in on the ETFs that Kim is obsessed with.
Or Mr. Beast. He runs $1 billion media business right now, right?
Does he own shares of McDonald's in his 401k? Because if he does, I want shares of McDonald's in my 401k.
We'd follow that. So Jack, what is the takeaway for our buddies over at eToro?
Insider trading is actually legal if you know where to look.
Now, Yetis, there's actually a way to find out how the insiders leading top companies invest their money.
In fact, It's legally required that CEOs disclose when they invest in their own companies.
For example, when JP Morgan's CEO Jamie Dimon sells stock in JP Morgan, he must disclose it publicly in advance, Jamie.
When Mary Barra buys stock in GM, she must disclose that in advance publicly.
Jack and I follow this because insiders' actions can reveal the direction of the entire company.
If all the executives at a company are selling, that's not a good sign about the company.
No.
If all of the executives are buying, that's a good sign about the company.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And reminder, by the way, insider trading with your friend who works at the company and has material non-public information.
That's illegal, totally unfair. We're not supporters of it.
But few realize that executives must publicly share their trades, and that makes them the ultimate influencers.
Fun fact, I follow insider trades on finviz.com.
There you go. So trading legally like the insiders is one of the best kept secrets in finance. Jack, could you whip up the takeaways for us for the new Friday?
Airbnb is adding hotel-like services to the app, but there's no limit to the services that could be offered.
Which means Airbnb has gone from travel app to the Everything app, like we called 3 years ago.
For our second story, Boeing just got its biggest order ever from Qatar Airways. 210 planes for $96 billion.
Trump's deal-making with Middle East countries, it's kind of like the signing of geopolitical free agents.
And our third and final story, eToro went public on Wednesday. The $5 billion company has an option to copy trades of influencers.
But the real influencer investing follows CEOs' insider trading because it's publicly available information.
And it's legal.
Key point.
But Yetis, this pod's not over yet. Here's what else you need to know today.
First, Boston and Philadelphia better get their reservations ready because you are getting Michelin guides.
Dallas and Houston are too. Why? Because each of those cities paid millions for it.
When the famous restaurant review Michelin guide arrives in a city, the data shows more tourists also arrive in that city.
So Texas, Boston, and Philly paid Michelin to bring all their critics over and review their restaurants and give us some stars already.
And second, streaming news of the day, Max is getting renamed to HBO Max.
It's actually getting renamed because HBO Max is what it was called before it was called Max.
Let me follow this, Jack. They've gone from HBO Go to HBO Now to HBO Max to now back to HBO Max?
Because dropping the HBO was the dumbest move ever.
And finally, egg prices just fell for their biggest monthly drop since 1984. That's a 13% fall.
Consumer prices for a dozen eggs fell from $6 on average in March to $5 on average in April.
Although we should point out egg prices are still up 79% from the same month last year.
If you take someone out on a date and you buy them an omelet, you're sending them a message.
Now time for the best fact yet. This one sent in from, wait 1 second. Jack, we're getting a phone call, Jack. Yeah, we're getting a phone call here. All right, Jack, who we got?
Nick, I'm checking caller ID. It's Jeff Rader, co-CEO of Mammoth Brands, formerly known as Harry's Inc.
Jeff, the Baron of Blades, the Razor Royalty. How you doing, man? It's been like a year since we interviewed you. Wait, here you got some big news for us and the best fact yet. What's going on, man? What's up?
Hey, guys. Great to see you. A fact that blows me away today, I never would have believed it, is that at Harry's, we sell 25% of all men's razors in the U.S.
1 out of 4 razors.
And when did the company get founded? Like 10 years ago?
12 years ago.
Wow. 0 to 25 in 12 years. That's insane.
Fantastic fact, by the way. Congratulations, Chef. Also, big news from you guys this week.
Totally. We just launched this new product. It's called Harry's Plus. I love it. It's the best razor I've ever shaved with. When we started Harry's 10 years ago, more than 12 years ago, we had this vision that we could make like a truly world-class razor, and then went to work on this new razor that's taken us a decade to make.
Wow.
And to start, we had to make the best blades we could. We had to change the steel of the blades, figure out how to grind the right angles. We shoot the edges with ion beams, and we put all of those into our original razor, which is this guy. And then we had to sort of deconstruct the entire razor. The first time I shaved with this was like 5 or 6 years ago. It was being held together by a little wire on the back. And I was like, this is a revelation. Like, how can we sell these? Like, let's go.
You know, one thing Jack and I were curious about, we were looking at this product launch and we noticed it times up with a patent expiration. And we get really curious about like patent expirations because you see a lot of innovation happen around then. How did that work exactly?
One of the dynamics in this category is that they're big razor companies and they take out countless patents and they stifle innovation, keep costs high, and what happens is that patents expire. And when they do, we were then free to innovate in ways that would enable us to deliver like a world-class experience. It wasn't just that. We had to spend years honing in these blades and the pivot and all these things to make a product that was unique and exciting, but it's nice not to be stifled by big razor and be able to make a product that we really love.
Yeah, we've seen this in the pharmaceutical industry. Now we're seeing this in the razor industry. Cough, cough, Gillette. Cough. But Jeff, thank you for joining us today. Once a Yeti, always a Yeti. It was so fun interviewing you last year, and we were really pumped for your launch. So congratulations. Great fact.
One more question, Jeff. When's the Mammoth IPO coming?
We'll see. We are just doing our thing here, building brands that people love. We make money. We're no gun to our head. We'll get there.
Nick, that's the answer a CEO says when they're planning their IPO, baby.
Jeff, blink twice if Q3 is the date, baby.
Jeff, thanks a lot, man. We'll catch you later. Congratulations.
Great to see you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Yetis, you look fantastic today. Jack, you are glowing over there, my friend.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Besties, if you haven't yet, drop down to give us 5 stars, especially if you own a lizard or an amphibian.
And Nick and I will see you tomorrow.
Can't wait. Ribbit. And before we go, a congratulations and whoa, let's go to our buddy Nick Marino, who is on Jeopardy tonight. You got to watch it.
Correction. What is congratulations?
I already lost the game. He will not, though. Our money's on Marino. And second, Liam and Olivia are celebrating a double birthday. Congratulations,
Wait,
guys.
aren't Liam and Olivia the 2 most popular names for boys and girls for the last 6 years?
Wow, what a family. And Nira Ibarra is turning 17 years old down in Burbank, California. Congratulations.
And happy birthday to Roxana Medina in Miami, Florida.
And Emmy Derzaich in Eagle, Idaho is a day 1 listener, legendary Yeti, and celebrating the best birthday yet.
Happy birthday to Don Courtney in Buffalo, New York. A dinkwad with pride.
And Grace McFadden is graduating from Notre Dame in accounting. Congratulations, Grace.
Happy anniversary to Jay Shang and Cassie Zhao, who are celebrating in Hawaii.
And Mabuba Actor in New Milford, Connecticut was accepted into a master's in AI management and policy. Wow, didn't even know that degree
Okay,
existed.
I want a master's in AI management and policy.
Good luck, Mavs. Oh, and Claire and Emma. Jack, there are a couple Yetis who work at Google. I just ran into them outside the studio by the Ferry Building. They wanted me to tell you, hey, Jack.
Hey, Claire. What's up, Emma? Thanks for listening to the show.
Skechers and Adidas, these are the best account managers yet.
And to anyone else who's celebrating something today, make it a T-Boy.
Celebrate the wins.
This is Jack. Nick and I both own stock of Airbnb, Peloton, Robinhood, and we both own some Bitcoin.
And Ben.